Mina Kim stood in the middle of her studio apartment, the manuscript pages scattered around her like fallen leaves. The rain hammered against the window, gray skies pressed tight, and she stared at the blank final chapter on her laptop. Her phone buzzed, but she ignored it. She couldn't face another question. Did she finish? She poured herself a cup of coffee, but the liquid trembled in the mug as she stared at her own reflection in the glass. Mina, the novelist who never finished anything. Her hands shook. She whispered, "Why can't I finish?" The question echoed and no answer came. Suddenly her door buzzed. Her agent Junho on the video call. He offered a polite smile. "Mina, the publisher wants the final draft by Monday. They're counting on you." Her heart froze. Counting on her? For the first time, she pressed the call to mute. She looked out at the skyline, rooftops slick. In the thunder's rumble, she heard a memory. The character Mira, cold-hearted, ruthless, drawing the conclusion of the novel. The character she named after herself, the villain. She reopened the draft. Mira raised a glass at a gala, eyes hard. Higher power achieved through betrayal. Mina typed, "I raise my glass in victory." But the words stuck. They felt empty. She darkened the line and deleted. Her phone rang again. This time it was Yoonha, her best friend since college. "We promised dinner, remember?" Yoonha asked. Mina's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I have to finish the draft." "Again?" Yoonha whispered. "You choose words over us." Mina's throat closed. "It's not just words." She covered the phone and the guilt flooded in. She turned back. The blinking cursor, the words she typed. Mira knocked on the door of fate. She paused. Her reflection flickered. Mira's face in the glass. The villain, the self. The question, "Am I the villain?" pressed on her chest. Mina leaned back in the chair, rubbing her temples. She remembered her college days. Yoonha laughing, Mina writing furiously. She promised to finish one day. The promise faded. Her phone pinged with a social media post. New teaser from Mina Kim. "Are you ready for the villain's final move?" 1,000 hearts, 1,000 expectations. She closed her eyes. The spotlight, the applause, the ending. That night she slept little. At dawn, she walked through the city's empty streets, umbrella shielding her. The novel's climax haunted her. Mira betrayed the woman who loved her, took the empire, smiled in the mirror. Mina asked, was that her? Was that life? Back at the apartment, she found an email, an invitation to a book festival panel. She stared. Panel, writing anti-heroes. She swallowed. She typed back simply, "I will attend." At the festival, lights bright, cameras pointed. Mina stood behind the podium, the audience waiting. Her heart thundered. The moderator asked, "Why did you make Mira so ruthless?" Mina's silence stretched. Then she said softly, "Because sometimes we hurt others not because we want to, but because we're afraid to do otherwise." The audience shifted. A hand raised from the crowd. A journalist asked, "Are you suggesting you see something of yourself in Mira?" Mina took a breath. She looked out into the faces. "I made Mira out of my fears, my ambition, my hurt." She paused. "I don't know if she's a villain, but I know I'm scared I could be." Later, she stood near the event's exit. Yoonha approached. Their eyes locked. Yoonha said, "You made people wait. You made me wait." Mina's voice broke. "I'm sorry. I forgot I was writing stories, but someone was living next to me." Yoonha nodded, tears shining. "Just tell the truth next time." Mina handed her the manuscript's final version. "Here." Yoonha flipped pages. "You finished." The word hung heavy. "I did." Mina's voice steadied. "And I changed the ending." Yoonha blinked. "Changed?" Mina nodded. Mira still stands. But she looks in the mirror and asks, "Am I the villain?" And for the first time, she speaks to the person she betrayed, says, "I'm sorry." Yoonha's shoulders relaxed. "Maybe you're not the villain if you own your story." The rain began outside again. Mina returned home, walked into her apartment. The scattered pages were gone. Only the typed final draft remained on her screen. She stared at the title, Mira's Reflection. She sat, fingers hovering above the keys. She typed, "The End." She exhaled. The question lingered, "Am I the villain?" She didn't answer. Not yet. But she closed her laptop, walked to the window, watched the city wake. Maybe tomorrow she'll write a new story, one where the villain gets to ask for forgiveness. The morning light came in pale, filtered through curtains that Mina had rarely drawn. She sat at her desk, and beside her the manuscript of Mira's reflection felt heavier than ever. She opened her email to find a message from the small publishing house. "Congratulations. We love the new ending. Let's talk about next steps." Her heart jumped, but the leap was tangled with something cold. She thought of Yunha waiting, of the manuscript pages she had cleared away, and of the mirror in Mira's story where the villain confronted herself. She typed back, "Thank you. I'd like to meet Thursday after 3 p.m. She closed the laptop and sighed. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent to the brand new version of her life she was writing. Yunha texted, "Coffee later?" "We need to talk." Mina hesitated. She'd been avoiding this. She walked out of her apartment, each step echoing. She found Yunha at their usual cafe, a little table by the window, rain still threatening outside. Yunha's eyes were tired. They had changed. "You changed the ending," she said quietly, not really a question. Mina nodded. "I did." She stirred her latte until the foam broke. "I realized the story I needed wasn't the one I started writing." Yunha took a deep breath. "And yourself?" she asked. "Did you change yourself too?" Mina paused. "I'm trying." Tears welled in Yunha's eyes. That's all I needed to hear. Back home that evening, Mina found a small envelope slipped under her door. A card. "You were right to finish." No signature. Inside, a photograph. Mina and Yunha at their college graduation, laughing, arms around each other. The back of the photograph had scribbled words. "Don't forget who you were." Mina's throat closed. She recognized the handwriting, not hers. Not Yunha's. Someone watching, someone reminding. A week later, Mina met with the publisher. They offered a contract, the next big project. She looked at the terms. Deadlines, marketing, social media image. She remembered her old promise, to herself, to the story. She said softly, "I'm not sure I can commit to all this yet." The editor blinked. "If you can't, maybe we reconsider." Mina stood up. "I'll commit, but on my terms." She walked away. Late that night, Mina's phone buzzed. A DM. "You're done pretending. Are you the villain?" She stared at the message. She had rewritten Mira's ending where the villain asked forgiveness. But what about the author who'd hidden, who'd delayed, who'd watched? The question echoed again. Am I the villain? She walked into the balcony, rain just beginning. The city lights blurred in droplets. She reached out her hand. A droplet curved around her finger. She whispered, "I choose to ask." And instead of answering, she returned inside to her laptop. The screen glowed. She typed a new line. "I was the villain once. I changed." But change doesn't erase the past. It acknowledges it. She saved the draft. The next morning, Mina invited Yunha over. They sat at the kitchen table, coffee simply brewed. Mina placed the photograph on the table. "I got this. I think someone is watching me." Yunha leaned forward, fingers brushing the photo. "Maybe they were watching you when you hid from your truth." Mina nodded. "I want to write that story. Not just Mira's story, mine." Yunha smiled weakly. "Then write it, and I'll help." They made a pact. No more secrets. No more endings left unfinished. They drafted scenes of trust broken and rebuilt, of alliances tested and healed. Mina's fingers flew across keys. Yunha read and offered questions. Is this real? Is this painful? Does it matter? Mina typed yes to all. Months passed. The book released. Reviews mentioned the raw honesty. The protagonist who looked in the mirror and asked if she was the villain, and found someone willing to change. Mina stood on stage at the launch event, lights bright, audience quiet. She looked out and saw faces, fans, friends, critics. Her heart pounded not with fear but with clarity. A hand in the front row rose. It was Yunha. She asked, "Did you really change the ending because you changed your heart?" Mina closed her eyes for a second. Yes, she opened them. And it's still unfinished. Because every day we ask, who are we now? What will we become? Silence filled the hall. Then applause. Afterwards, as people mingled, Mina slipped outside. The rain had returned. She walked into it, lifted her face, let the drops cool her skin. The envelope, the photograph, the message, all part of something bigger. She whispered into the rain, "I will write it. The story of when I was the villain and when I wasn't." And for the first time, she meant it. The sky was pale pink with the coming dawn. As Mina walked along the quiet pavement, the city still wrapping itself in the hush of early morning. Her manuscript lay heavy in her handbag, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. She paused by a small cafe, the soft chime of an opening door echoing across the street, and she thought of the journey she'd taken. From unfinished drafts, guilt, hidden truths, and the question she had asked herself so many times. Am I the villain? She pushed open the cafe door and stepped inside. A warm glow welcomed her, steam rising from fresh cups of coffee. She found Yoonha waiting at their old table, the one by the window. Yoonha's eyes reflected relief, forgiveness, and maybe something else, hope. Mina sat down, placed the manuscript between them, and reached out for Yoonha's hand. "I finished it," she said softly. The words seemed both simple and enormous. "And I changed the ending." Yoonha squeezed her hand. "You changed yourself," she replied, voice gentle. Mina nodded. Outside the window, the rain began again, soft and steady. Mina watched the droplets trace the glass. Each line a story, each drop a memory. She thought of Mira, the villain she once created. She thought of herself, the author who delayed, disguised, deflected. But most of all, she thought of the new page she faced. Blank, yes, but full of possibility. She raised her cup of coffee and offered it to Yoonha. "Here's to new endings," she said. Yoonha tilted her cup in return. "And new beginnings," she said. They drank, the warmth spreading through them. The city outside woke slowly, lights flickering, lives resuming. For Mina, the manuscript was no longer a burden, but a bridge. From the past she left behind, toward a future she would write for herself. As she stood to leave, she looked back at Yoonha and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. Yoonha smiled too. "Thank you for finishing." Mina walked out into the rain. The raindrops on her skin felt like small ghosts of what was, and yet each drop glistened with the promise of what might be. She lifted her face, let the weather refresh her, and opened her umbrella. She stepped forward, the pavement slick beneath her shoes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt not like the villain, but like the author of her own story. And with that, she opened the door to a new chapter, one where forgiveness, truth, and hope would live side by side. The end of this one. And yet perhaps the beginning of everything else.